My name is John Lancaster, and I'm one of the instructors for the College of Liberal Studies course LSTD 5013, titled Interdisciplinary Foundations. This is one of the core courses that all students in the master's programs of the College of Liberal Studies will take as part of their preparation for interdisciplinary work. The emphasis of the College of Liberal Studies has always been on interdisciplinary education, which is somewhat different from the education we have in the main campus courses. These courses tend to emphasize the core of the various disciplines, whereas the College of Liberal Studies has always emphasized the overlap of knowledge from various disciplines as it occurs at the boundaries of these disciplines. The Interdisciplinary Foundations course is designed to illustrate some of these overlaps. It includes information from the humanities, from the natural sciences, and from the social sciences, and the textbooks for the course reflect these disciplines. The texts that are used in the course include The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn, The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, and Savage Inequalities by Jonathan Kozol. Structure of Scientific Revolutions introduces the concept of the paradigm, which has been utilized and misused in a number of different disciplines and in conversations in our everyday life ever since the concept became popularized through commentaries on Kuhn's work. The text, Structure of Scientific Revolutions, is based on science, but is in fact a humanities book. It deals with the philosophy of science and Kuhn's contention that a study of the history of science, that is how progressive knowledge in the areas of the sciences has actually come about. And although science is the illustration of how these processes of acquired knowledge have occurred, it is a philosophical study of the process of science that is his real focus. The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins is an account of how genetic information carried within organisms, particularly animals, since they are the ones that can best express this type of information, will affect the behavior of these organisms. This has been a controversial work, and in fact the whole area of animal behavior is somewhat controversial, particularly as it becomes extrapolated to humans. One of the values of Dawkins' work, well, there are actually two major values, but one of these is the fact that it illustrates a paradigm of science at work. That is the paradigm of what we call sociobiology or evolutionary psychology, which is essentially the study of the genetic relationships between behavior and genetic content. But a second major contribution of Dawkins' work is the fact that he illustrates in his studies how the intellectual capacity of humans allows them to override what in lower animals would be directions of their genes. So human behavior can't be studied in the same sense that lower animal behaviors can be, because of this intellectual capacity for free will, essentially, to use the philosophical term. Savage Inequalities by Jonathan Kozol is a study of the effects of inequalities in educational funding on the quality of education that students have access to in the United States. And although it doesn't offer solutions to these problems, it does identify problems, and through this identification it allows us as students of the area to recognize the kinds of paradigms that have to be addressed in looking at funding procedures and the types of means that have to be addressed and in many cases overcome if equality in education is ultimately to be established. These are interdisciplinary questions, and they are deliberately selected to give students an introduction to the whole process of interdisciplinary education. I hope that you'll feel comfortable in benefiting from these topics and will come out of this course with a new appreciation for how knowledge can never be compartmentalized, but rather is always diffuse, interacting with many different sources of that knowledge.